Hey everybody, before we get started, I did just want to mention that my full uncut reaction is available on my Patreon at the $5 tier and up. It is picture-in-picture, and the only thing edited out is the commercials. And if you do that, you also get access to the full reactions for Space Babies and the full unedited reaction for The Devil's Cord as well. If that's something you're interested in, it's before you see my shorter review here. Check that out on my Patreon. That is down in the description below. And let's get on with the review. Boom! Today we're going to be reviewing episode 3 of season 1 of Doctor Who, which is called Boom. But now I actually really enjoyed this episode. First off, the special effects look so good, considering this had to have been done pretty much completely on green screen. With the background of the battlefield around them, that is realized really well. Like, I'm convinced they're there. The budget looks really good here. The Disney money looks really good here. I'm not sure if I like Disney involvement. Actually, I'm very sure I don't like Disney involvement. But I am liking the way this episode looks. It looks really nice. I especially like when Ruby looks up and she sees the alien sky for the first time. That's actually pretty cool. I like that. I like the story. It's not like, I don't think it's up there with like The Girl in the Fireplace or Blink or a lot of the other Moffat episodes, but I think it's really good. I do enjoy it. I love the fact that Stephen Moffat takes the idea from Genesis of the Daleks when the Doctor steps on a landmine, the fourth Doctor, and Harry has to help get him out of that. That's a pretty cool scene in Genesis. So the idea of making an entire episode around that is a neat idea, and he pulls it off really well. I like the type of mine used. I love the fact the mine can redisguise itself. The fact that after it utilizes itself and it kills somebody, it can just cloak and be reused again. That's interesting. I love the little green light that goes around it. That comes in really handy to up the ante and the tension and the intensity as we see it has to complete that circuit before it goes off, and seeing it slowly creep toward it. That's actually a really good plot device and works really, really well here, seeing that. And then, of course, when it goes all the way around, how it flashes red. I really like that they took that approach with that light. I feel like it helps the story along. The actual execution of the story is really good. Again, I love the way the battlefield looks, this war-torn. I really like that. And you get at the beginning of, well, they're in the mud or they're in the smoke, and them arguing about where the enemies are, learning about the ambulance and how the ambulance isn't quite as effective as you want it to be. A little too effective, maybe. That's interesting. It's really hard to know where to start with this episode. It really is. What's really blowing me away more than anything is Ncuti Gatwa's performance. His performance is very, very good. I continue to be impressed with him as the new Doctor. He does it with this ease. A lot of the best Doctors, one of the reasons they're so good, like Tom Baker, Patrick Troughton, John Pertwee, is the fact, and William Hartnell, is the fact that the ease with which they are the Doctor. Ncuti Gatwa is like that. He plays the Doctor. He slips into character as the Doctor with such ease to it. Like he's not even having to act. He just is the Doctor. I'm very much enjoying that. He runs the gauntlet of emotions in this episode. There are scenes where he's afraid, nervous, angry, sad, worried, happy, and he's going through all of these different emotions really well. He's pulling all of them off. Again, he tends to do a lot just with his face, but the way he delivers the lines really sells it. I love some of the humorous bits, like when he's standing on the mine, he's listing off all the things that's happened. He's like, it's a landmine, it just isn't my day. I love that, the way he does that line. There's a flippancy to it that I like. This just isn't my day. Like, you have that sometimes where you're having such a bad day, you just kind of have to laugh about it and be like, this just isn't my day. It's kind of like that, and I like that. Millie Gibson is Ruby Sunday. Really, really liking her in this. She definitely has that individuality streak that Clara had in her, but it's done, I feel like it's done in a much better way here. I like the fact that she doesn't necessarily do what the Doctor tells her, even though he may know best, because he's been traveling for thousands of years. But the fact she's like, no, it's better for me to do it this way. The scene when he wants her to throw the little rod at him and she wants to hand it to him is a good scene. It does go on a bit long. It is stretched out a bit. I will admit it is a little much. But it's performed well, and I like that part when he's like, you know what? If I survive this, I'm going to be cross with you for a really long time. I like that. As I've mentioned in the other reviews for this season, they are great together. Millie Gibson and Ncuti Gatwa have good chemistry together. The 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday have good chemistry together. They bounce off each other very well. It's one of the reasons I always liked Matt Smith with Jenna Coleman, and I wish we'd gotten more of them, as I love the way they bounce off each other. They have very good rapport. It's the same thing here. I feel like these two actors and characters have very good rapport, and they just click together in a way that I like. And it has carried all the episodes so far, even if I didn't like all of the episodes, because Space Babies, I didn't think the story was that great, to be honest. I really enjoyed Devil's Cord story, and I've enjoyed this story. I don't think it's necessarily Moffat's top tier, but it's a really good story. But it's these performances carrying it. The guest performers are fine. I will admit, none of the guest performers are blowing me away with their performances, but they're fine. They work really well, and they serve the plot. And I like the girl's father, that there was enough of him left in the AI to kind of overtake the computer. We get another look at Susan Twist, who, of course, is the face on the ambulance. At least I believe that's Susan Twist, the actress. So I definitely want to know what's up with that. I find it interesting that the computer, the ambulance, recognizes Ruby. The fact that when it hooks onto her, it knows her name. She's over 3,000 years old. I'm like, that's a little weird that it knows her name. That's odd. And then we get the bit with more snow. That's been kind of a recurring theme with the snow falling. So once again, kind of teasing the mystery box that is Ruby in this. I'm not a big fan of companions being mystery boxes because it has been kind of done to death. But it's got me intrigued so far. Same thing with the Susan Twist stuff, to see where that's going to go. I do think there's a few times when Shuti's talking, he moves enough that mine probably should have been set off. Like when they make such a thing about how he's not supposed to move, where he is kind of moving a little bit. I'm surprised the mine didn't set off. But I like the fact that it's also showing how the Doctor's not human, and that he can regulate his body better than most, which we see this even in Classic Who. He can do a lot of things humans can't, even putting himself in trances and stuff. And that he has a secondary circulatory system, like in Pyramids of Mars. So I like the fact we see him being alien really benefiting here, with him being able to control his adrenaline, his body temperature, and stuff like that. That's really cool. And again, as an actor, he pulls that off really well. There's a couple, it doesn't really get political. You could say it's saying something about faith and religion. But at the end, it kind of mentions that it's good to have it. So it kind of takes both stances on that. Like saying that, almost like there's one part where it's almost like taking a puck shot at religion and faith, possibly, if you wanted to construe it that way. But at the end, the Doctor also mentions, I can see why people need that. So it kind of looks at both sides of that political argument on religion, which I like. And it doesn't really delve into it enough, I think, to be bothersome. Like, I mean, I was raised in Mississippi, the Bible Belt, and I wasn't bothered by it. Of course, I'm not overly religious these days either, but I think even if I had been, I wouldn't have been bothered by it. One of the things I've liked this season about Doctor Who is I haven't felt like any of the political points have just been shoved in your face. Like, they kind of touch on them, and then they move on. Even the abortion push stance from Space Babies, I don't feel like is just shoved in your face with a sledgehammer like some of the stuff maybe in the Chibnall era, which even it's not always as bad as that. But like, they mention it once and then they kind of move on. Same thing with the refugee stuff in Space Babies. They mention it once and then they kind of move on. They don't just spend the whole episode harping on it, even though you could argue the whole episode is an allegory of it. It feels, I won't say subtle, but it doesn't feel like it's lecturing and talking down to its audience like Modern Who has in the past. The same thing with Devil's Cord. You have that bit at the beginning when Jinx is insisting on they and them, but it mentioned at the beginning, you move on past it. I never feel like I'm being lectured to or talked down to. Same thing here with that. There's never been a point in the new season where I felt like the politics was eye-rolling. Not once, where it's really bothered me. I've never felt lectured to or talked down to. It makes its point, it moves on, that's fine. Which to me is what politics should do. It should either be subtly woven into the story or make your point and move on. And it does that, and I'm fine with it. So yeah, I've enjoyed it. I thought the resolution was good. I wonder what happened to the Doctor's Tardis key. Like, he couldn't find it. I wonder if that's going to come up again. Like, maybe he dropped it on the planet and somebody finds it later, and that comes back into play. I'm curious with that. But I liked it. It had a good execution. I love the atmosphere of the story. I love the tension building in the story. I love the camaraderie between the Doctor and Ruby in the story. And I love the resolution that there's no one there. You declared war on an empty planet. And I figured that out as the Doctor was talking. I'm like, yep, okay, I see it. They were all jumping at boogeymen in the dark, ghosts in the dark. That's funny to me. I do like the fact that the military soldiers are the church soldiers like we saw in Time of the Angels and Flesh and Stone, where, you know, the military and the church come together. I actually really like that. It's a nice little continuity thing that I like, so that's pretty cool too. So I really enjoyed this one. I think it's a strong episode. Maybe not S tier, maybe A tier, maybe B tier, but I still enjoyed it. And then the execution of the episode is really good, with the battle scene looking good, the performances, especially from the main two, being good, and the guest cast being fine. And just the concept, the idea of the Doctor standing on a mine and having to deal with everything going on around him while he can't move. It's a fascinating idea. It's an original idea, which I like. Because, again, we only had it briefly in Genesis, so I kind of like that stretched out here. Because the Doctor is going through a lot of things where he wants to do something but can't. You know, the ambulance moving, the little girl being in danger, Ruby getting shot. The fact that he has to stay still while he thinks Ruby might be dead when she gets shot. And he's just like, that can't be easy, especially for the Doctor. And that was some good acting from Ncuti Gatwa's part. So that's what I think of Boom! I want to know what you think of Boom! Also, if you're interested, my full reaction to Boom! I just can't stop. My full reaction to Boom is up on my Patreon. It is picture-in-picture, unedited, just with the commercials edited out. That is on my Patreon, available at the $5 tier and up. If that is something you are interested in, check that out. If you do decide to join at the $5 tier, you not only get access to the Boom full reaction, but you also get access to the Space Babies full reaction and the Devil's Cord full reaction, because I am doing full picture-in-picture reactions on my Patreon for my patrons at the $5 tier and up. I also want to give a shout out to a couple of my top tier patrons, Colin Coney and Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. It's very much appreciated. So a link to that's down in the description. Check that out. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review. A link to my Amazon wish list is down there. A link to my Amazon UK wish list is down there. And most importantly, thank you for watching.